Why is it that when your nails grow, it doesn't hurt when it grows past your fingers and the nail disconnects from your skin? Your nails grow on kind of a track that keeps them attached to your nail bed. The end of the track is your fingertip, and it allows the end to just run off. Now if you were to rip your nail off it would hurt a lot, because those track hold your nail firmly down, so it grows in the correct direction. If you have any damage to your nail bed, or the nail matrix, the white moon at the bottom, you have a deformity in the nail and or have issues with it attaching the nail bed firmly, leaving you at higher risk for fungal or bacterial infections under the nail, high risk of it breaking and causing further damage, and just not having as pretty a nail to look at. If you ever lose a nail, protect that nail bed at all costs. I have accidentally leave it of 2 or 3 of my nails over the years. You can't tell, because I babied the. It also hurts a lot to use your hand sans a nail. It provides support and protection to your otherwise very sensitive fingertip. Why do ships have circular windows instead of square ones? The joke answer is, so that the water doesn't hit you square in the face. The real answer is that shapes with sharp corners are structurally weak. Arcs and circles are very strong shapes. If portholes were squares, the openings would get damaged and worn out sooner. For the same reason that airplanes have round, arch windows. The structure of a ship is put through a lot of changing stresses, both in the sense of the ship being heaved and twisted by waves, and in some cases, having actual water pressing against the portholes. The corners or square windows are a point where stresses can build up. It's a weak point. Circles or circular shapes are better at distributing forces equally. The same is true in airplanes, though there the pressure is from the inside, as the outside pressure drops. Early jets had square windows, and it caused several accidents as the uneven stresses over many flights led to metal fatigue and finally failure. Why do humans scream when in pain? Is it a learned behavior? Screaming is an extreme manifestation of the fight or flight response, which is a series of mechanisms our body unchains when in danger or distress, triggered by the hormones adrenaline and cortisol, among others. When we feel we have run out of options to overcome a dangerous threat, screaming is the last resort, its goal being either alerting a fellow congener so they can help us survive, or hoping the strident noise will scare off or deter the predator. Why do eggs turn solid when you apply heat? This one is a little complicated to explain to a 5-year-old, but here goes. Proteins, egg whites for instance, have an inherent structure. Those structures are called the secondary, ternary, and quaternary structures. The process of all those structures breaking is called denaturation. The structures inherent to the proteins break. This makes it so that instead of being happy next to each other, they break into pieces and agglomerate together. This process cannot be reversed in eggs, and that is why eggs become solid when you cook them, and they stay that way even if you cool them back down. Why is it advised to not give water to someone that's bleeding due to an accident? It is in anticipation of potential surgery. Anything recently added to the stomach can come up during intubation and go into the lungs. This can cause anything from pneumonia to acute respiratory distress syndrome. As a surgeon once told me, nobody dies from missing a meal or a drink. People do die from aspirating. All the other answers about cooling the core, messing with blood pressure, and diluting the blood sound good, but have absolutely nothing to do with restricting a patient's intake. Nothing they consume will have an appreciable effect on a really sick person. We give forth fluids in hypertensive trauma patients while waiting for blood, and we can warm/cool patients more effectively with other methods than drinking water. Source: I'm an emergency doc. Anesthesiologist here. Hijacking this to try to give a bit more context. When considering how to induce general anesthesia, one thing we consider is whether the patient has an empty stomach or a full stomach. We also consider the type of surgery someone is having, and what depth of anesthesia you will need for the planned surgery. For simplicity's sake, let's assume anyone having significant enough bleeding to require surgery will need general anesthesia with a breathing tube. Think intra-abdominal/intrathoracic surgery. We often use a combination of drugs to induce anesthesia, including propofol to induce unconsciousness and some type of paralytic, to optimize our conditions for intubation. Placing a breathing tube. One commonly used class of paralytic takes a few minutes to work. During this time, the patient won't be breathing on his/her own because of the drugs we gave to induce unconsciousness. Therefore, we'll mask ventilate the patient for a few minutes while the paralytic kicks in. This is a high risk time for aspiration, vomiting, because we usually are pushing some air into the stomach plus lungs with our mask ventilation, causing the stomach to be distended. Also, our innate protective mechanisms to protect the lungs when we are awake are significantly diminished. Also, you're flat on an or table instead of sitting upright. Therefore, if someone is having elective surgery, we require patients to have an empty stomach to decrease this risk as much as possible, and we'll delay/cancel cases if patients eat the morning of surgery. This isn't possible for truly emergent surgery however, so we adjust our anesthetic technique to minimize or avoid mask ventilating the patient completely. The goal is to minimize the time from first inducing anesthesia to placing the breathing tube. This is called a rapid sequence intubation, and typically involves using a quick-acting paralytic. We don't do this on everyone, because it has its own set of risks. The best answer, and what most people probably do in clinical practice, though, is to treat most, if not all trauma patients, as though they are full stomachs. First, your patient may not be in a position to tell you exactly when they last ate. Also, the stress of trauma can delay normal stomach emptying. Body doesn't worry about digesting food when under stress. I typically treat any major trauma as though they have full stomach just to be safe. So my final answer is, although there's a reasonable rationale behind avoiding drinking water, if you're headed for emergency surgery soon, it may not make a huge difference to your anesthesiologist, who may assume you're a full stomach anyways. Drinking water would certainly never delay emergency surgery. Who, what, when, where, which, why do so many question words in the English language begin with W? Or WH for that matter? It's of a Proto-Germanic root. As many know, multiple foreign invasions on the English Isle have influenced the language greatly. As for why that is, all of the WH words are called interrogative words which have the purpose of eliciting a response from the person being talked to. In simple tongues before more complex languages developed, it was easy to have all interrogatives start with the WH sound then branch off, based on the noun you were asking the question about. For Romance languages like French and Spanish, the root of these interrogatives is the core sound which came out of the Eastern European tribes. Why doesn't honey expire? Honey is a concentrated sugar. When bacteria or molds land in concentrated sugars, any water that might be in their cells crosses the cell membrane via osmosis in an attempt to normalize the concentration within and without the cell. This dries the cell and kills it. If you add enough water to honey, it will decompose, and if you put yeast in the mix, you can make a tasty alcoholic beverage known as mead. Why are some spicy foods felt in the mouth? Example hot sauce, and some felt in the sinuses. Example wasabi. There are two different chemicals at work. Capsaicin in many hot sauces/peppers, and allylisarthiocyanate in mustards. What we call wasabi is usually actually horseradish. As an aside, the latter is more volatile. It evaporates more readily in the mouth and travels up into the nose with air. The former tends to stay a liquid, and so is less inclined to do so. However, if you've ever sneezed after taking a big hit of hot sauce, you will discover that it definitely can be felt in the nose if you get it there. Why does milk help soothe a spicy mouth better than other drinks? Is it specific to animal milk, or would nut milk have the same effect? Drinking water while having eaten spicy food makes the capsaicin oil stick even more to your tongue. Think of oil floating on top of water, and drinking milk helps it wash away, like soap and oily hands. The molecule capsaicin that's responsible for the spiciness in chili peppers is an oily substance. Since your tongue is pretty meaty, it sticks to your tongue the same way that oil sticks to your hands. Milk is microglobs of fat floating in water, and the capsaicin oil sticks to the fat globules, which are also stuck to water, the same way that soap cleans oil off your hands. It's a combination of the fats in milk and the casein in milk. For this reason, skim, non-fat milk is not ideal. Whole milk would be best if milk is your choice to rid yourself of spice. Fat is chemically similar to the spicy molecule, which is called capsaicin. This chemical similarity, they both do not like, or dissolve well in, water, allows the fats to lift up and carry away the spicy molecules from your tongue. The casein in milk is also chemically similar to the spicy molecule. The casein, in similar ways, binds to and carries away the spicy molecules. It is primarily the fat that does away with the fat, and this is because of the fact it is chemically similar to capsaicin. Because of this, milk isn't the only thing that will get rid of it. A shot of anything fatty would help. X. Olive oil, ice cream and cottage cheese, for the same reasons as with regular milk, are also related milk products that can greatly help get rid of spice in your mouth.